We are 22West Radio. 22West Radio is 22westmedia.com and 88.1 FM, KKJZ HD3, Long Beach, Los Angeles.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, and now, our World Broadcasting Tag Team Champions of the World, the Cruiserweight Champion.
I'm Ethan.
I'm James.
I'm Rob.
And this is episode 131 of Beyond the Ropes. We are BTR Pro Wrestling Talk. Of course, I'm your host, Ethan, joined alongside the analyst, James Williams, and of course, our producer, Rob Flores. You can follow me on Twitter at EthanM95. You can follow the show on Twitter at RealBTR Radio. You can follow James on Twitter at...
You can follow James on Twitter and on Instagram at JHW Reporter.
And you can follow Rob at...
Rob Flores Media. And I got my superpowers back!
It's the Invisible Man again. Facebook.com/Beyond the Ropes, where we post every single episode, as well as YouTube. Just search up Beyond the Ropes. All 130 episodes are currently uploaded as of today, as of this recording. It's been a busy, newsworthy week, to say the least. Let's just get into it. Elimination Chamber.
Yeah.
Elimination Chamber. We have a new WWE champion. Rob predicted this one, right? He actually did say The Miz was going to walk out of the Elimination Chamber event as champion, and I wasn't expecting it, but I'm glad it happened. Initial thoughts, reactions?
During the pre-show, they really did kind of hype this possibility up. So it really kind of made me think that it wasn't going to happen, but, because they even kind of teased it. Oh, maybe we're speaking into existence and stuff. And it was almost kind of pushed too hard. Do we want to jump into the end of that match now, or do we want to wait and run down the whole card? Because
we'll leave it as a teaser. We'll get into it in a bit. We'll leave it right there. But yes, Rob, you predicted correctly.
Yeah, well, because that's the event where people are already messed up from suffering the chamber.
Yeah, made sense. It wasn't the first time.
And not to cut you off, but I just wrote it down. I thought about it earlier too. I think Rob is he can predict the future or something, and I'll talk a little bit more about why later.
Mm-hmm.
But there's going to be a lot of credit thrown Rob's way in this episode, I think.
Superpowers, not just invisibility, then.
Just saying.
We'll see.
Okay.
Of course, we are doing this virtually via Zoom because of the pandemic going on. Hopefully, everyone is staying safe, staying socially distant, and hopefully, we'll get back to the studio very, very soon.
You guys are wearing your mask. Wear your mask. I have a cute Macho Man Randy Savage mask. It's in the car, or I'd show you. It's cute.
I've seen it. It's pretty cute.
Yeah, you have, right? Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Let's kick off with the kickoff show. It was announced that Keith Lee was injured and was unable to compete in the United States Championship match. So they had a fatal four-way match between John Morrison, Ricochet, Elias, and... Who am I missing? I'm missing someone.
John Morrison? Did you say John Morrison?
I said Morrison.
Who? John Morrison? Elias?
Ricochet? Mustafa Ali was the fourth guy. This was a fun match. All four guys, obviously, great athletes. Got to see some unique moves, clash of styles, and ultimately, John Morrison picked up the victory. Thanks to Ali being distracted, Morrison got the roll-up, and we got to see him added to the United States Championship match later on in the evening.
Yeah. Were you guys kind of surprised by that? By Morrison winning?
A little bit, but it was a good, nice surprise. I was thinking he was going to win it. After he won that.
You weren't thinking he was going to win it?
I was thinking
Oh, you were
Once-
thinking he was gonna win it.
the U.S. title, yeah. Because once they added him, I figured, oh, maybe it was supposed to be Keith Lee, even though I predicted Riddle. I think.
Oh, well, I think I could see why you think that, but I think though, Morrison being more of a guy who can, I think he's kind of a guy who can work with anybody and everybody, even on like on the fly. I think that's why he was kind of thrown in there, you know. But I think like Ricochet could have worked. Maybe with someone like Ricochet who wants to get some of his stuff in. Not saying that it's his fault or whatever, but to showcase him as well a little bit. Maybe you would want to plan that out a little bit more. I mean, I don't know how far in advance they knew about the Keith Lee stuff, but and then Elias, I don't think Elias would have been like, oh yeah, Elias has a shot, but I don't know. I mean, it's possible, even considering everything that was going on with the Miz and the rumors around that could have been a really good night for Miz and Morrison.
Absolutely, and yeah, I think I agree. Morrison is definitely, I think, the most experienced out of the four competitors. So he obviously has that in-ring capability to pretty much clash with anyone. And it was a fun triple threat, as we saw later in the evening. But first, we kick off. No, he has not been a U.S. champion, Rob, which is a title he's missing there. But let's kick off the Elimination Chamber pay-per-view with an Elimination Chamber match where the winner would go on to face Roman Reigns for the Universal Championship later that same night. Let's talk about Kevin Owens versus Sami Zayn versus King Corbin versus Jey Uso versus Daniel Bryan versus Cesaro. The first two in the match were Cesaro and Daniel Bryan. Of course, kind of the workhorses, not surprising. Corbin was next to enter, and we got to see Daniel Bryan's knee kind of being worked over. Corbin dominated until Zayn was the next person in line to come out. Zayn was great because he has his documentary crew. And referee Jess, what's her name? Jess, right? I think Jessica Clark.
Yeah.
She kicked them out, and it was great. And he was there was a scene where he was in the pod, and it opened, and he was trying to close it, and then on the other side, they got him, which was great. Sami Zayn's a great hero.
I think he, you know, I've kind of been a little hard on Sami Zayn just from the standpoint of I feel like he hasn't really, I don't know, he kind of hasn't done a whole lot for me, even though I know he's pretty talented. But the last few times I've watched him, especially during the pay-per-views, he's been like really entertaining, and he kind of added some color, I guess you could say, to that match, just with like his antics and the way he can, you know, the comedy spot, I guess you can say. But I'm trying to think how that match could have gone without him. Like it would have been kind of dry. Like it would have just been a lot of like wrestling, I guess. I don't know. I think he added stuff to it. So.
Corbin was the first person eliminated by a sharpshooter, thanks to Cesaro. So, King Corbin.
It was kind of random though. Like, it'd be different if you did on a little guy, but like Corbin can, maybe because it's Cesaro. I don't know. I just don't see like Corbin going out to a sharpshooter. I don't know. Him or something.
Well, next up was Kevin Owens, who Zayn was trying to plead to team up with. That obviously didn't happen. Got to see a clash between all those guys. And then Uso came out, and he and Owens began to brawl. We got to see a moonsault from Kevin Owens off a pod. Ultimately, Kevin Owens eliminated his former friend, Sami Zayn. And then right after, Jey Uso smashed Owens' arm in between the door, which looked painful a couple of times, hit the Uso splash and eliminated Owens, surprisingly, because he kind of seemed like he was a favorite to win this.
Yes. I would agree. Yeah. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna keep going, but good. All right. And then we had Jey Uso ultimately also eliminate Cesaro. So Uso got 2 eliminations in a row. Kind of an interesting build. But of course, it's main event Uso. Can't be surprised.
Yeah, I mean, with Jey, I mean, I kind of thought this was gonna be it. Like, I really thought we were gonna get something with Jey, and they kind of let us down.
No, it's fine.
But before, just to backtrack a little bit, before you mentioned Jey Uso coming into the ring, I remember watching this match and looking at those 4 guys. I guess it's 4 at that time that you mentioned, in like, wow, like these guys were like all on the indies. Like, these are like indie guys right here, like right, like Cesaro, Daniel Bryan, Kevin Owens, and Sami Zayn. I'm like, wow, like, you know, for some of these guys, they probably would have never thought they would have been in this situation. I mean, they've had, you know, successful careers leading up to this moment, obviously. I mean, this isn't the biggest match of their career or anything, but just interesting to like kind of look at those guys all on the screen at one time and say, wow, like those guys have all come a long way. So, and
we may be seeing that very soon in the future with some new signees we'll get to in a little bit. It's a nice little tease there. Ultimately, Daniel Bryan stole the victory from Jey Uso, winning the chamber match. Unfortunately for Daniel Bryan, the Tribal Chief was ready for his match, and of course, he delivered a 5-star classic. James doesn't believe me, but Roman Reigns just put in that work.
We watched 2 different matches. I mean, it was depends, you know, if you're a Roman Reigns fan, then it was a 5-star match by all means, but
all the stars.
But in all seriousness though, what was the point of the match?
What
was the point?
Roman had to defend his title. Come on, he defended his title.
Yeah, but I mean,
it's not his fault. Daniel Bryan.
I would have rather
was unprepared.
Oh, Jesus. I just think it would have been great. It would have been great if you, let alone the part where I forgot they were gonna have a match that night with Roman. But I kind of thought for a second it was for a match at WrestleMania, and it was gonna be Jey Uso who won, and they were gonna put the title on Jey.
No. Look, main event Uso is one thing, but Roman's Universal Champion, and Daniel Bryan, he's Daniel Bryan.
I just think if I'm one of the guys in the Elimination Chamber match, what did I put my body on the line for?
An opportunity to main event with Roman Reigns.
Main event, the second match into the show?
Roman Reigns is the main event. He's been saying it week after week. He's a main event. Doesn't matter where in the card he is, he's a main event.
I mean, sure. I'm not disagreeing with you, but okay.
All right.
Carry on.
After the match, there was a cowardly attack from Edge, who came out of nowhere and speared our Tribal Chief.
So you're just
he was
like all together. Wait, whoa. First of all, no, it wasn't, because then Roman spear Edge. Like
that was provoked. Edge disrespected him early in the night. So go ahead, James.
No.
You know that?
I mean, it's good build. Okay, first of all, okay, good build, whatever, good story. I think it was the right choice, spear. Considering we don't. It was a good spear. I mean, I do hope they don't spear each other 7 times during the match at WrestleMania.
I hope they do.
But I didn't get why they had the fireworks ready for Edge when he pointed to the WrestleMania sign.
He probably told him ahead of time. He said, he went to the power guy, I'm going to go out there cowardly attack Roman Reigns, and when I point to the sign, I want the pyro to go off.
But what if? I mean, who's to say Daniel Bryan doesn't win that match though?
He could have done the same thing to Daniel Bryan. Obviously, he knows Roman Reigns is the main event, and he figured he was going to go after Roman Reigns. So, in the chat, Rob commented he should have chosen NXT. I agree. Finn Balor versus Edge would have been a 5-star classic as well. Or Adam Cole, because you know where that's going. Don't make that face, G.
I'm just like, we'll get to Adam Cole later, but
oh Lord,
we have a couple minutes left before a commercial. What was the next match?
The U.S. Championship match.
If not, we can kind of.
We'll talk about the U.S. Championship match really quickly. Bobby Lashley defended against Riddle and John Morrison. Riddle rocking some Evel Knievel attire. This was a fun match. Everyone got their stuff in. I don't remember it. I just remember it being good. But yeah, ultimately, I believe there was a crutch MVP who's now using a crutch to walk because of a knee injury, I believe. That was used on Lashley to take him out of the match. Ultimately, Riddle getting the Bro Derek. I believe it was a Bro Derek to get the victory. And yeah, he got the victory over Morrison, won the United States Championship. I predicted that correctly. So there you go.
I think they did it right by having Bob. If Bobby was going to lose, Bobby couldn't be the one to take the pin. And it obviously showed with what happens later on. But I do think, you know, that was kind of the thing all along, is that Bobby has been doing really well with the title leading up to this, leading up and going into this match. A lot of momentum for Bobby Lashley, and I think a lot of that momentum still stays with him a little bit, as we'll even see on Monday if Sunday wasn't telling enough for what they have planned for him, at least short term. But I think they got it right. It was kind of interesting that there was no follow through, but I think it's obviously warranted based on what happens later on, why he doesn't chase after the U.S. title and Riddle.
Absolutely. We have a little less than a minute here. When we return, we'll talk about
I think that's
the women's tag team championship match that happens. Of course, the WWE Championship Chamber match. We already teased it and talked about it a bit. And then we'll talk a little bit about Monday Night Raw. AEW has a major signing, has a big signing, I guess.
Big announcement.
Yeah. And then, of course, WWE also has a few announcements as well. And maybe we'll talk about NXT, because I know James is obsessed with Adam Cole.
No, you are. Rhea Ripley coming to Raw sometime soon.
That's right. All that and more right here on Beyond the Ropes. We are 22 West Radio. 22 West Radio is 22westmedia.com and 80.1 FM, KKJZ HD3, Long Beach, Los Angeles. Welcome back to episode 131 of Beyond the Ropes. I'm your host, Ethan, joined alongside the analyst, James Williams, and of course, our producer, Rob Flores. We are doing the show remotely via Zoom. Of course, Rob is chilling in the 22 West Radio studio there, while James is kind of being Twitch star over here with Charmander. And of course, I'm in a WWE ring because, let's face it, I'm going to make my surprise debut next week or something. So don't make that face, James. Yeah, I'll take Gilbert down. All right. So for the Women's Tag Team Championship, we're talking about the Elimination Chamber special event. Of course, we have Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler taking on the team of Bianca Belair and Sasha Banks. Yeah, I mean, this was a fine match. I don't think there was anything spectacular about it. You got 4 capable women that can put together a match. It happened, and Reginald got involved. because Reginald is being Reginald, being obsessed with Sasha Banks now.
The Reginald thing is confusing. I don't know if I missed something on that, but
he did it on
still
SmackDown.
Carmella, right?
Yeah, he did it on SmackDown too. Carmella got mad at him. I would imagine, because this will air after SmackDown, so I would imagine some more story will unfold on SmackDown, and hopefully we'll get more to that. But he cost them the tag team titles, and now Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler will move on to Dakota Kai and Raquel Gonzalez of NXT next week on March 3rd. I don't know. It might be. I believe it's next week, but it's coming up, and so that should be a fun.
It is next. Yeah.
Yeah. So that should be a fun match.
It is next week. I do think this match, because the way, and we talked about it last week, the way they kind of built up
I saw it.
Gonzalez Dakota Kai thing. I thought. Well, I just think the Shayna and Nia being there on NXT the week or days before the pay-per-view, I mean, it kind of hinted that they were going to win the titles. I was kind of expecting more of some tension between or Bianca Belair. I don't know. I was expecting tensions. That's why the Reginald thing was confusing to me. I'm like, what is he doing in this? Like, it didn't help the story.
In the coming weeks.
Yeah, I mean, there's another pay-per-view between. Maybe Carmella gets involved.
Fastlane is coming up, and so I'm sure we'll get more. Let's talk about the WWE Championship match, the Elimination Chamber match. Drew McIntyre defended against AJ Styles, Kofi Kingston, Sheamus, Jeff Hardy, and Randy Orton. Before the match started, when Orton was making his entrance, I don't know if you caught Kofi Kingston complimenting Orton and his quads.
It did. Was there some reason for that, or?
He was just being Kofi, which is great. It's on Twitter. I'll tweet it out or share it again. Someone posted, but it was great, and you could tell Randy was about to laugh. So good stuff there. But Orton and Hardy started off the match, two 20-plus year veterans, or in Hardy's case, plus years. Then we got to see Drew McIntyre come out, so the champion. Roman Reigns, he would have started the match. I don't know how I feel about McIntyre coming in all late, being the third man in. There's a reason he's not champion anymore, James.
Stop. Imagine.
Yeah. Kingston then made his way in and eliminated Orton. First elimination, and Orton made note of that the next night on Raw as to why. We can mention it now. As he was distracted by Alexa Bliss. He said he's kind of over the Fiend. He already burned the Fiend, but Alexa Bliss has been distracting him for weeks, cost him the gauntlet match the week before. And then we got to see Randy Orton throw up some black substance. So I'm sure tonight when this airs on Raw, hopefully we'll get some more answers there. But she went full Papa Shango on Randy Orton.
Yep. Yeah, Papa Shango was trending, at least on my Twitter timeline and stuff. So,
yeah.
Styles,
his buddy Omos, actually broke through the chamber doors, got AJ out there to try and do some early eliminations, because Orton did hit everyone with an RKO after he was, eliminated, and didn't work. No one got eliminated, so it was just kind of a waste for AJ. But it was, it showcased.
I know.
It showcased.
It kind of was.
I was just gonna say it showcased almost the strength.
Yeah. I mean, you're not wrong. I said, but it was kind of because he was the next one in, anyways, right?
Yes. He
So
just
it
came
was
out a few
kinda
minutes
like,
early.
I mean, yeah, okay. Maybe it was like a few minutes early because they were all laying there, but
I mean, I get it. He wanted to get the
if
pins,
the
but
elimination chamber is that easy to break, then that's kind
Omos
of
is
lame.
just strong. He's just strong. Right?
I mean, I get it, but then if you just have him out there for every match, then it's like there's no point of a chamber. The chamber is supposed to keep people in and out, right?
Well, Shawn Michaels got through it by 1 year and cost Undertaker the World Heavyweight
Yeah, but if
Championship.
he's hiding under the ring,
No, he broke through under the chamber.
well, yeah, because it has like the gate or whatever, like on the
Yeah.
maybe not more realistic, but more like you didn't see how it happened.
I think the Hell in a Cell is stronger structure, at least in storyline form. Well, that keeps people out.
Maybe for a storyline purpose, yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, Sheamus came out.
Has anyone ripped through it? I mean,
Probably.
Yeah, Kane went through the door, but
that was the original Hell in a Cell. Anyways, Sheamus came out, eliminated Kofi Kingston with the Brogue Kick. He was seemingly the favorite kind of to win this besides Drew. And then ultimately eliminated McIntyre eliminated Jeff Hardy. And then Styles actually got the elimination on Sheamus, hitting a phenomenal forearm, taking him out of the equation. And then he got a Claymore to the face and got eliminated by McIntyre. Then after the match, James?
So before we get to the end of the match, were you surprised? Were you surprised by Sheamus going out the way that he did? I mean, I thought we were gonna get the one-on-one.
Yeah, a little bit. It was kind of like the Kevin Owens
between
moment.
McIntyre and Sheamus. I thought, I don't know. There's still a lot of loose ends I feel that came from this whole match. We'll get you can get into what happens next, but it's just kind of it's still all over the place.
Lashley came out, speared McIntyre, beat him up, put him in the Hurt Lock, and The Miz came out. Something I forgot to mention was Miz and MVP were seen talking backstage earlier in the evening about some business, obviously, which ended up being this. And The Miz cashed in his Money in the Bank contract and became a 2-time WWE champion, becoming the first ever 2-time Grand Slam champion.
I mean, say what you want. Say, considering the Miz, a lot of people weren't all in on the Miz at first, and I mean, maybe for good reason, whatever. They were annoyed by him or whatever. But I mean, if he wasn't already, he's a Hall of Famer. I mean, I kind of want to say he should be like a first ballot Hall of Famer. Not that means anything in professional wrestling in the WWE Hall of Fame, because they don't really do it like that. But
they kind of do. I mean, they have the headliners.
Right. No, right. But just from time-wise. But I mean, I feel like he won't be a headliner, even though he should be, just based off the credentials. I mean, because say what you want about wrestling, say what you want about it being predetermined, yada yada yada. If you went through 5 years and then all of a sudden this dude just happens to have reached a Grand Slam 2 different times, a Grand Slam in wrestling being you win the 3 or 4, it kind of varies, but the 3 or 4 biggest titles throughout your career. So for him to reach each one of those titles at least twice and then get Money in the Banks and everything else, I mean, you can kind of put his career up with anybody. I mean, he's won the Intercontinental title at least 8 times, maybe 9 times. I think it's 8 times still.
It's 8 times.
I think and then just second most for in total days behind Don Morocco, I believe, and I think even when the first Grand Slam, the last thing he needed was an Intercontinental title. So he kind of had the Intercontinental title. I mean, he kind of had the Grand Slam thing way before he even really started
this 10 years
run of Intercontinental, like, building. Yeah, well, it's been 10 years since he's won the WWE title too. Yeah, no. I mean,
well,
is that what it is? Is the WWE title thing?
I want to say
he won the WWE title. I think before he won the Intercontinental title. I think.
Yes, he did, but I think he won the IC title like later that same year. So it's been about 10 years as well. He's been in a Grand Slam for about 10 years.
I mean, I know he hasn't been doing a whole lot lately. I mean, he's been in the mix and stuff, but I don't know.
Okay. I mean,
I think if more than anything, he needs to kind of get the rest. So.
Bobby Lashley is his next opponent, confirmed, happening Monday. By the time this is released on 22S, it's tonight. So Braun Strowman was kind of in the mix just to kind of speed things up a little. He did face Lashley, and in dominant fashion, Lashley defeated Braun Strowman. So we got to see Lashley's finally at that point where he probably should have been many years ago, or even the last year, as a dominant heel. And we may be seeing Lashley as a new WWE champion. I'm predicting not yet. I think Miz retains.
Yeah, but that goes into all the loose end stuff. I mean, so Rob, how much time do we have? 6 minutes. Okay. So I think so we can almost spend the whole 6 minutes on this. Okay, so Miz is the champion. Miz also has this whole other thing with Bad Bunny going on. The hottest WWE superstar, in his rookie season still.
Damian Priest.
He's only been there a few weeks. Already a 24/7 champion with Damian Priest. I mean, it was looking like it was a Miz Morrison Priest Bad Bunny thing, and it still might be, which means Miz has to drop the title. So I must say you got to have Bobby Lashley win the title, but you don't want him to win the title at Fastlane or on Monday and at Raw. And then where does Drew McIntyre fit into all this? Drew McIntyre wasn't even on Monday Night Raw for that show after Elimination Chamber, if I'm not mistaken. Not that he's sick or anything. I believe they said he was backstage. You have Braun Strowman getting involved. You have, you just have the Miz, and I don't know. It's just all over the place. And when Drew McIntyre doesn't come out, like, what is the match even going to be for Fastlane? Like, what are we doing? Like, it's kind of good because you can't predict whatever the WrestleMania main event's going to be. And then I guess Randy Orton is just out. Randy Orton is going to do the Fiend thing or Alexa Bliss, whatever.
He's shooting with Alexa Bliss right now.
I don't know.
WrestleMania match there, Alexa Bliss versus Randy Orton. We're going to see another Funhouse match.
So here's another thing. I was washing the dishes the other day, right? And I was thinking about Bray Wyatt, and I'm like, what are they doing with Bray Wyatt? Because if anything, you should be using him more now when you can do those kind of gimmicky matches. I mean, I guess you could do them when there's no pandemic, but you can be getting creative with Bray Wyatt, because look how, like, you're not going to be able to be creative at WrestleMania in a stadium in that same way when you have fans in attendance. You got to do a lot of that stuff in the ring. I don't know. I think they're kind of missing the boat with the Fiend and him being away. I mean, I know he just had a child. Is that what it was? He had a child, so maybe he wants to spend more time with the child. I don't know if he's hurt.
He's working the Undertaker gimmick.
Didn't he just have a kid?
No. Yeah, I don't know if it was like last year or a couple months ago. He could have another one. I don't know. Yeah. I'm seeing Firefly Funhouse because that's the only way they're gonna.
But I just feel like even then it's hard for me with him because if you look at the Randy Orton burn thing, it lasted a week. Randy didn't, or what? Or what's like? I don't get it.
I mean, yeah, Burns heel. I don't know what to tell you. I don't know. He threw up black stuff last week, so I don't know. I don't know how he's going to recover from that, but.
So right now, based on the scenario, where do you think we're going with WrestleMania? Like, what is the storyline for this title?
Lashley and McIntyre seems to be where they're going. Because I don't think it's just going to be Fastlane and then they move on.
You think
maybe Sheamus gets involved? I don't know. I think Sheamus might be out.
That's the other thing. Well, see, but that is, I guess. I mean, could be, but why?
He might be post WrestleMania.
Like, I mean, that's too far, though. That's too far. That's way too far. That's what, but that's what I'm talking about with loose ends, and that was the other thing. I thought I got everybody, and I knew there was a lot, and that's the thing. It was Sheamus is the one I was thinking about. You know, Sheamus wasn't involved. Like, I mean, do you do Drew and Sheamus? But I feel like Drew's gonna be back in the title picture, and I don't know how I feel about Drew winning a title for the third time in a year, just so he can have a moment or whatever. What I mean, yes,
they made the mistake doing this Lashley thing right now. It should have happened after Mania.
Yes and no, but at the same time, what else would you have done with him?
Build him up, keep him feuding with Strowman, because he's not technically in the title picture now. They could have kept him in the U.S. title scene for a little bit longer, pushed it to Fastlane maybe, and then moved on to Strowman. I don't know.
I kind of think when it comes to you can't. It's kind of hard to say that the U.S. title is a difference maker, but I kind of almost want to say that it might have been for Bobby. I don't know. I think it did something for him. So, like, we're gonna look at Bobby, and what are we gonna think now? Like, I just don't know what we're gonna get from Bobby without a title. Like, it's like he's not defending. I don't know. There's just a lot going on, and I'm not necessarily saying it's a bad thing, but I just think it's a unique situation that we don't know what's going to happen, I guess. I don't know.
Well, we still have a little less than 2 months now. The next pay-per-view, Fastlane, will be the first pay-per-view, WWE pay-per-view under Peacock, the NBC streaming service. Yeah. And so we'll talk more about that later on. And when we return, we'll talk about some new signees right here on Beyond the Ropes. We are 22S Radio. 22S Radio is 22smedia.com and 88.1 FM, KKJZ HD3, Long Beach, Los Angeles. Welcome back to episode 131 of Beyond the Ropes. We are BTR Pro Wrestling Talk, and we are doing this remotely via Zoom. I am your host, Ethan, joined alongside the analyst, James Williams, and producer, Rob Flores. Peacock, NBC streaming service, it has officially announced that WWE's WrestleMania this year will be exclusive to their streaming service. So big news coming out of this past week.
Yeah, it's going to be kind of that transition show. We're going to get Fastlane on both the network and on Peacock, and then we're going to get WrestleMania strictly and exclusively on the Peacock app, which will be interesting. I still got to download the Peacock app. I'm not ready for that transition. I don't know. Something about just the WWE network itself kind of being gone is kind of a bummer. But we'll see. We'll see how the layout looks and how things play out. But it'll kind of be the same way as when we got the network booted up. It was maybe a takeover or an NXT show as that to kind of work out some of those kinks on the network, and then that next show, that second show was pretty much WrestleMania. It was kind of like all in on that big show for how the network was going to perform, and it did well. So we'll see what happens with the Peacock app, but I'm sure they'll, after all these years with the network, everything should go pretty smoothly, I would think.
Speaking of being gone, a big show has officially moved on from the WWE. Of course, we're talking about Paul White, formerly known now as Big Show, has officially signed with AEW Wrestling. Of course, let's talk about this press release. Came out earlier this morning as we're recording this, February 24th. As 2021 shapes up to be the year for AEW's biggest shows yet, today the promotion announced that the wrestling legend Paul White signed a long-term deal, adding another universally regarded name to AEW's roster of stars, legends, and upcoming talent. White will have an extensive role, within AEW's roster of stars, legends. On top of his in-ring return, he will serve as a commentator for AEW's newest show, AEW Dark Elevation, which will happen Mondays at 7 p.m. So he did make some comments, but now we're getting a third AEW show. I don't know how many people watched the first YouTube show. Now we're getting another one.
And it's interesting that this is going to be on a Monday as well, because, with Raw obviously being on it, but
it's going to be before Raw, though.
It's going to be before Raw. Are we looking at an hour show, or what are we doing here? Is that, I don't know if there was a time on it, because this is going to be the premiere of it. To answer Rob's question, who asked if this was going to be on TV, strictly on YouTube. I think it will be. I think it's kind of interesting that him and Tony Schiavone are doing it together, considering Tony was calling his matches in WCW. I think even when he first debuted, I'm sure Tony Schiavone was kind of doing something to introduce Paul White in a big way. I woke up to this news and I thought I was kind of tripping at first, but
me too.
it's so crazy. Okay, so the Netflix show that Big Show is on, I'm still calling him the Big Show.
Done. Canceled.
It got okay because it was a WWE thing, right?
I don't really know. Possibly.
I think part of me wants to say there was some maybe, but I think too though, like you had guys like I think Mark Henry and like some other guys, like there were some superstars on there. So I don't know. I didn't remember it being canceled, but it does make sense. I mean, I figured some had to be up, but kind of surprised he's going to be getting back in the ring. I think though to this point, I mentioned Rob was we were gonna give credit to Rob. This was one of the things I was gonna give Rob credit for, was he did mention the Big Show. He mentioned the Big Show's name, like I think it was last week or the week before when we were talking about Shaq, and he's like, "Oh, what did you say, Rob? Something about, oh, too bad the Big Show wasn't there," or something like that. But now here he is. And like you just send the comments, he's chasing Shaq. So, I mean, I'm sure you're going to get those guys in the ring maybe at some point. But it's just so odd. I mean, not that I realized Big Show was there that long, because he was there. I didn't know if his contract was up or whatever. The thing that's always interesting to me. Go ahead.
Apparently his contract came up to an end in January, shortly after Legends Night, where he did appear. Apparently he was very unhappy and he was very vocal about it. They weren't able to reach an agreement, monetary, money-wise. And so, yeah, he left, which is interesting because it seems like Vince is more comfortable letting certain individuals go now elsewhere.
Well, I think to that point, though, what were they going to do with the Big Show? I mean, heck, you even put the Big Show in that WrestleMania match after, or whatever that was with Drew McIntyre. But the thing is, it's like, I'm assuming that means he wasn't under the Legends contract.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, maybe he's a little disappointed considering the shape that he's gotten in and stuff like that. Maybe he still does want to try and get another run in, but I just don't know what they were going to do with the Big Show. And it's just funny when you get these guys who you think would stand under the Legends contract, and I don't know how much different in money it is from a Legends contract to an AEW contract, but I don't know. I mean, it's enough to get guys like Sting over, who I'm sure had to have been on a Legends contract, if anything, because he wasn't really wrestling. He was in maybe he still had a contract, even though it ended a lot shorter than maybe they wanted to because of the injuries. But I don't know, when you see guys like him and Big Show moving over the way that they did, I don't know. Maybe they like something about it. I think Big Show will do good on the mic. I just don't know what they're going to do with him in the ring, especially considering what all have they really done other than matched up some of these guys like Tully and Arn. They've just kind of matched those guys up with as managers with somebody more or less the same thing and with Sting. You know, Sting did take. I heard a nasty power bomb from Brian Cage on AEW earlier or last week or whatever the case was. Speaking of AEW, really quick, the numbers obviously they beat NXT in the ratings again, but it was a lot closer this week. 747,000 for AEW compared to NXT, which had 713,000. So a lot closer of a number there or a margin there, but I think compared to previous weeks, maybe it being I don't know if wasn't a go home show. I don't really know what AEW did. NXT would have done to make it any different this past week, but yeah, just going back to Paul White, which is kind of a lot to try and I don't know. I'm still gonna call him the Big Show. I don't care. I don't know. I do kind of like the concept that they're doing though with this show, but a third AEW show, I guess. But I will say though, just to kind of wrap up my rant here, I think we maybe need to kind of stop comparing AEW and NXT because the mindset is kind of different at this point. Yeah, I get it. They're on Wednesdays and whatnot, but when you have AEW who's loading up with I don't want to just say WWE guys, but big names, main eventers, compared to NXT, which is more or less a proving ground, more or less, and you're having guys, you're having a few guys come back like Finn Balor come back down to compete and whatnot. I just think it's maybe not worth comparing the two when you have guys like Sting and Big Show and everybody else like that there compared to NXT, which isn't really made for a lot of former headliners and stuff to kind of come back. It's more of a who's the future of the company kind of deal. So I don't know. Maybe that's a fair take. Maybe it's not. But
my thoughts, good riddance.
God dang.
I don't care.
Wow, you sure you don't want to turn heel and put your NWO background too?
No. Good.
Is that because you're a WWE guy? You got beef with the Big Show? Did he take your chocolate milk one day, or what happened?
No, I just don't. I have no interest. I don't care to see Shaq versus Show. We got it at Mania, that Battle Royal. That was more than enough. We don't need to see it again. I mentioned it. I probably tweeted about it earlier. AEW is really just going full WCW right now. Vince is allowing all his older stars to move on to AEW while they're building new stars. And speaking of new stars, they signed a bunch of new potential stars. Let's talk about them. Let's talk about the son of Rick Steiner. That's right.
Yes.
From the gridiron to the squared circle, the son of former WCW and WWE Tag Team Champion Rick Steiner, Bronston Rex Steiner, has officially signed as one of the top signees. This is the largest class at the Performance Center that was signed. Someone else with a huge name and a huge following, Kira Bagden Forster, known to wrestling fans as Taya Valkyrie, has also signed. This has kind of been teased over the last couple of weeks as her run in Impact came to an end. But of course, she is married to John Morrison. So I saw a number of wrestlers commenting on her, congratulating her. So she is officially signed. Sean Ricker, who we talked about him last week, LA Knight, formerly known as Eli Drake, is a big signing. He signed. Great promo, by the way. We got some more signees. Angela Arnold, trained by Booker T himself, was signed. Parker Bordeaux, who everyone is comparing to Brock Lesnar, who was found by Paul Heyman, funny enough, through social media. Anthony.
Wait, well, oh yeah, that's how you found him, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Anthony Henry from Evolve Wrestling. Of course, WWE bought Evolve last year or the year before. And they have some Evolve content on the network. Chance Barrow, who's kind of a former, he went to Japan, so he has some name value over there. North Carolina native, so some success in the indies there. Theresa Serrano, who actually wrestled against a women's champion, Io Shirai, this past week on NXT, to a very impressive performance. So she's already there making her name. She's a phenomenal wrestler so far from what I've seen. We did get Christian Brigham, 6 years of experience under the name Christian Casanova. So there you go. Priscilla Kelly, who is actually, I believe, either engaged or married to TNT champion Darby Allin.
Wow.
Fun little fact there. She did compete in the 2018 Mae Young Classic, and earlier this year competed in the inaugural Women's Dusty Rhodes Women's Tag Team Classic. Let's see. We also got Drew Casper, whose brother signed in October. He was an NCAA Division III athlete. Let's see.
He was the number one. He was the number one seeded wrestler in NCAA Division III, which which speaks volumes about him, obviously. But obviously that tournament didn't take place just because of the pandemic. But being the number one seed in your division is no joke, that's for sure.
Brianna Corda also made her debut in the Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic a few weeks back. Christian Hubble, formerly known as Blake Christian, who competed in Impact in January. So he has some experience there.
Have you seen him before? Has he done it? I know he's at PWG and stuff before, but
I've seen him just wrestle once in Impact.
Oh, okay. The first thing on the bio that they have for him is a former college cheerleader, and I was like, okay. I was like, interesting.
Yeah. Very athletic, I guess, right? Matrick Belton attended NFL Philadelphia Eagles training camps and wrestled training at the Combat Zone Wrestling Academy in New Jersey, Division I football player for the University of South Carolina. Yep. Cameron Clay has been wrestling for 4 years and wrestled against Shotzi Blackheart. Joe Areola, a 25-year-old amateur wrestler, undefeated champion there. And then Taylor Grotto competed for Evolve and Shine, and Carissa Rivera wrestled for promotions like New and Women's Wrestling Revolution. So a number of signees. Of course, the big two names being Greg Scanner's son and then Taya Valkyrie.
Yeah, interesting considering with Parker Bardot, he's not the headline of that press release or whatever that they put out, or the list of bios there. But interesting. We'll see what a lot of these names. Some of them already have experience, so it's just kind of interesting the way that they kind of go about. It's almost like anyone who gets signed with a company. I mean, I don't know what. I mean, you almost had to be AJ Styles to not get into NXT, but even the Good Brothers ended up having to go, I think, and have a little bit of a run at NXT when they first signed. But did they not? Is that not true, Ethan? Or I think that's true, right?
No, they went straight to
that. Well, that would make sense because Gallows had been there prior. So, but the point I'm making though is that it's interesting that a lot of these guys, even though they've had ring experience on the indies or with some of these other promotions, WWE does do things a little bit differently, just the way they want you to look at their hard cam and their main cameras and know the ins and out of what it is they do, because obviously they do things a little bit different. Sometimes the ring is a little bit different compared to the other promotions some of these guys have wrestled in, guys or girls have wrestled in. So it's just kind of interesting. But a few names that stand out, a few names I'm not very familiar with, and some of them are just coming out of their college athletic careers. So interesting to see where these guys and girls end up in a couple of years, because there may be one or two world champions or women world champions on this list. But that's the fun part. You get to wait and see how they develop. I know there's a lot of hype on Parker Bardot, but then also being the son of Rick Steiner for Bronson. I mean, there's some pressure there, so we'll see. I mean, the second, third generation guys have done pretty well in the past, so we'll see what happens with Bronson. That should be a fun one to watch.
Yeah, and then I'm very much looking forward to Taya Valkyrie just adding to the NXT Women's division, which is already a stacked division. So.
And one other thing before we go, I know we're kind of running down to the end here, but just wanted to send out well wishes to Devon Dudley, who apparently had a stroke in November. Didn't know about that. I think he might have just kind of started talking. He just talked about it or came out public with it. But, it sounded like a very serious situation. Got up one morning, couldn't feel his legs or was kind of weak in the legs. His wife called. He went to the hospital. Ended up having to get brain surgery done to break up some clots in his brain. He had some internal bleeding he had to deal with. And his quote was, "It could have been a lot worse," and it sounds like it could have. So sending positive vibes out to Devon, who obviously is a well-known part of the well-known tag team with Bubba, but also was working backstage in WWE as an agent. So wishing him the best of luck.
Absolutely. And on that note, we're going to end today's episode. We will briefly mention that A&E is actually doing an 8-part series on WWE wrestlers. So we'll maybe talk more about that in next week's episode. But until next time, this has been Beyond the Ropes, episode 131. And this episode has been Too Sweet.
Boom.